With the NFL Draft just a few days away, let's take a look at some of the projections for the first 10 picks. No surprise to start, the Bengals take Joe Burrow, quarterback from LSU. The 23-year-old put together one of the most electrifying college seasons in recent memory. Burrow threw for an NCAA record 60 touchdowns in the 2019 season, alongside over 5,500 yards. He was also rewarded the Heisman Trophy, earning the highest percentage of first-place votes ever. The Bengals had a few successful seasons with Andy Dalton, but after an abysmal 2-14 record last year, they need a change of pace. Second-year head coach Zac Taylor could craft his own offense around the young quarterback. With weapons like A.J. Green, Joe Mixon, and Tyler Boyd, Burrow wouldn't be without help. This pick makes sense for Cincinnati, and is as close to a lock as you can get. At second overall, the Washington Redskins will almost certainly select Chase Young, edge rusher from Ohio State. Young put on a dominant campaign at Ohio State, leading many to call him possibly the best player in the draft, only falling to second because Cincinnati needs a quarterback. Following in the footsteps of other recent Ohio State edge rushers taken in the top three, like Nick and Joey Bosa, Young will add to an already stout Redskins defensive line, alongside Daron Payne and Matt Ioannidis. Coupled with menacing Montez Sweat, Young will be a perfect fit for new defensive-minded head coach Ron Rivera. The Detroit Lions select next. The player they likely target is cornerback Jeffrey Okudah from Ohio State. But the question is, where will they take him? With the subsequent drafting teams most likely not eyeing Okudah, and some vying for the same players, which we'll get into later, the Lions would be smart to trade back, to add more picks, and still get the player they want. Now for why Okudah makes sense for Detroit. Last year, the Lions ranked last in the NFL in pass defense, and that was before they lost star defensive back Darius Slay after a rift formed between him and coach Matt Patricia. Okudah was fantastic at Ohio State, locking up opposing wideouts with ease, and displaying his fundamentally sound game by not accruing a single holding or pass interference penalty all of last year. The Lions need help in the secondary, and Okudah fills a gaping hole. At 4, Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants have two possible thought processes. The first, and in my opinion the one that will happen, is they select offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs of Iowa. The Giants have to protect the young Daniel Jones. The offensive line needs a large amount of work, and shoring up one of the tackles is a great place to start. Wirfs is one of the contenders for the best offensive lineman in the draft, along with Jedrick Wills and Mekhi Becton. Gettleman has shown interest in Wirfs, and I think is likely to take him at 4. The Giants could also entertain the idea of selecting Isaiah Simmons, the combo defender from Clemson. In the mold of other combo defenders like Tyrann Mathieu and Derwin James, Simmons could be a future star for NFL defenses. Ultimately, I think the Giants stick with the safer pick and take Wirfs. With the 5th pick, the Dolphins have an important decision to make. It's no secret the Dolphins are searching for a franchise quarterback. Had he not been injured, Tua Tagovailoa would have been in the conversation for the number 1 pick, but I think he's going to fall here to the Dolphins. The talent was obvious at Alabama beginning when Tua stepped in to win the national championship. The biggest question with him is his health. Tua suffered 2 high ankle sprains that were both treated with the newfound tightrope surgery. Information is sparse on whether or not this procedure has any poor, long-lasting impacts. Tua also suffered a hip dislocation which ended his 2019 season. He likely had the hip put back in place within the 6-hour time frame necessary to avoid avascular necrosis, or degeneration of the bone, which was the injury that ended Bo Jackson's career. If the Dolphins are confident in Tua's health, he has to be the pick. They also have to be wary of the Chargers picking at 6. The Chargers may want Tua as well, and be the team to swap picks with the Lions at 3. The Dolphins could play it safe and trade some of their 14 draft picks to secure Tua, or they could hope the Chargers don't trade up and wait it out at 5. As I mentioned, the Chargers are in the market for a quarterback as well. If the Chargers don't decide to trade up and pursue Tua, they'll likely be taking Justin Herbert of Oregon. Herbert is a prospect who is not as polished as some of the other quarterbacks in this year's draft. He showed flashes of brilliance against teams like Colorado last year, but had performances like against Arizona State that might make scouts steer clear. Chargers coach Anthony Lynn has already said the team is committed to starting veteran Tyrod Taylor this year. For a player that may need a year or two to develop and learn from a veteran quarterback, the Chargers would be the ideal location for Herbert, while Taylor acts as the bridge quarterback. Of the 8 mock drafts I analyzed, the most common spot linebacker/safety Isaiah Simmons was taken was here at 7. His average selection of all the drafts ended up at 6.125, right around here. So unless the Giants take Simmons, I think the Panthers scoop him up at 7. I was able to watch Simmons when I attended the NFL Combine, and he had one of the most memorable performances. the GMs narrowly voted for Simmons to participate in linebacker drills rather than defensive backs. Simmons has decent size, coming in at 6 foot 4 inches and 230 pounds. His 40-yard dash of 4.39 seconds put the NFL world on notice, leaving all the other linebackers in the dust, and besting most of the other defensive backs. The advantage to a player like Simmons is he has the ability to cover larger tight ends and blitz, while having the speed to cover faster receivers as well. Simmons would have learned well from newly retired Luke Kuechly, but could still blossom under the guidance of outside linebacker Shaq Thompson. Kyler Murray had a breakout year in 2019, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. That was despite being sacked 48 times by opposing defenses. It's obvious they need protection from Murray. Mekhi Becton out of Louisville is one of the best offensive linemen in the draft. Even at 364 pounds, he ran a 5.11 40-yard dash, displaying his wondrous athletic abilities. Murray is a mobile quarterback and would benefit from linemen who can get downfield and in front of him. The only issue with Becton is the recent flagging of his drug test from the Combine. Becton has no history of failing drug tests and no substance abuse problems in the past. Becton has done his best to do damage control for the test, and most likely won't have his draft stock hurt by it. At 9, the Jaguars must try to continue to retool their once ferocious defense. Reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year Derek Brown would be a great fit here. The Jaguars are a far cry from the Saxonville defense that led into the AFC Championship game just a few years ago. Losing stars like Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Bouye, and Calais Campbell, while Yannick Ngakoue tries to force his way out, the Jags are in desperate need of another strong defender. Josh Allen's rookie campaign exemplified some of the remaining hope for the defense. Brown was a man among boys in the trenches at Auburn. Even the physical nature of the SEC couldn't stop Brown from disrupting the backfield. With 31.5 tackles for loss and 11.5 sacks for Brown in his last 3 years at Auburn, the Jaguars could find a much-needed defensive lineman here at 9. The Cleveland Browns round out the top 10. I predict they'll be taking offensive tackle Jedrick Wills of Alabama. Wills is clearly one of the 3 best available offensive linemen in the draft. I think Wirfs and Becton are a bit better fits for the Giants and Cardinals respectively, which is why I think Wills falls to 10. The Browns addressed one of their tackle needs by signing Jack Conklin this offseason. The left tackle hole would be filled nicely by Wills. The Browns' offensive line, anchored by veteran Joel Bitonio, has been slowly improving. One thing to watch for here is the Browns possibly trading back. They have been connected to Boise State's Ezra Cleveland of late. In the 8 mocks I referenced, Ezra Cleveland's average draft position was in the mid-30s. Although his stock has likely risen, the Browns couldn't justify taking him at 10. It would also be the 5th time in NFL history a team drafted a player with the same name as their city. My next video will cover picks 11 through 20. Thanks for watching.